They Shoot Horses, Don't They is a 1969 film directed by Sidney Pollack. So I don't really know what genre to describe this movie as. It's a horror film, it's a social commentary, it's a drama, it's it's a period film because the movie was released in 1969, but it takes place in the Depression era, which was in the 1930s. So, what is this film about? So, one thing that was very interesting to me was that the story was a little similar to Squid Game. If you've seen Squid Game, you'll know, but I'll just talk about this movie first. So, what this movie is about is in the 1930s, apparently, there were contests held where people come in to, because it was a depression era and a lot of people were very, very poor. And there were these contests run by more rich people for the people to dance in a stadium. And whoever is the last couple standing is the one who wins the money. And back then it was 1,500 US dollars. Obviously right now it's not much money, but I assume back then, especially in the depression era, that must have been a lot of money for the people. And the way this competition runs is that they would keep dancing as a couple. Like there's like 50 couples, 60 couples. No, I think there's like 100 couples or something at the start of the movie. And one by one, the couples, they get exhausted. They go out of the game. And yeah, we just see what goes on from that. And there's these breaks in between. Like I think every 2 hours there's breaks, and they could sleep, they could eat something, and then they have to get back really fast. And I think they only get like 1 or 2 hours of sleep throughout the whole competition, and they got to be dancing the whole time as well. Like whenever they're not resting, they have to come out, they have to dance. So you could see how it it really is like a very cruel way of having this competition. Even for money, it seems like what are you willing to do for money? When you don't have a lot of opportunities. So that is what this movie is trying to show, what these people did at that time. And we also see how a lot of the stuff is very rigged from the very beginning. Like as you find out later, what the game is, what the game is really about. How it's not really about the contestants; it's about the audience who are watching. So you get a lot of social commentary on that, and that's why I thought it's kind of similar to Squid Game in a way. But the difference is that in Squid Game, there's a lot of people getting killed. In this movie, you don't see people getting killed, and I don't remember people dying, except at the very end. Spoiler alert. Although I'm not going to say who dies, but there's some death that happen in the end of the movie. Um, but Squid Game really emphasizes the people getting killed. In this movie, though, people don't get killed, but you still see the social commentary that runs throughout between the contestants, the competitions, the different people, the different mindsets that they have, the different philosophies that they have. Like this movie, you see a lady who's pregnant, and she is participating with her husband. So she is really putting in the effort. Like technically, she shouldn't be participating in the game, but she has no money and the husband has no money. So they see this game as the only way for them to win the money. And they get very defensive when they're questioned about this whole thing. Like, this the female lead asks, hey, why are you guys participating? This is so crazy. Like, why are you even having a baby if you don't have the money to afford it? And they're like, no, we're hopeful. You cannot stop poor people from having babies. And it's like, it's very direct. It's like the dialogues, a lot of the scenarios in the movie feel very direct. It's very like unsubtle. But in this movie, it works because I feel like this is what the characters will say in that scenario. Like I felt like that was real. Like the dialogues were real. The scenarios, the acting was real. Even though it was not subtle, it was real to me, and I'm pretty sure people watching the movie, even to this day, I think they would feel it's real. Yeah, you see these different viewpoints, just like Squid Game with like these people who are like from the North Korean uh, escape person. They got no, they don't have much choices with the jobs they do, so they got to go into these kinds of games. And there's this guy who is really in depth with gambling. In a way, you can see that it's kind of his own doing, but in the end, he still needs the money. Even though he's a flawed, crazy guy, he still needs the money. And then there's this other guy who is in debt. He's lying to his mom that he's earning a lot of money, but then he's actually in a lot of debt, right? So all these different people come together in Squid Game. And this movie, there's this lady who is just, she has no like money at all because she got screwed over by her husband. So she's out here trying to make money, trying to win this contest, and she's also very cynical and angry, and she makes some bad decisions which further screw her over throughout the course of the movie. Some really rash decisions, that, like, she forgoes her partner because of a thing that she didn't really listen to what actually happened. And like technically he's not even her partner in a literal sense. It's just for the game. But she's like, oh, if you're gonna do it, then I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna leave you. And it's like it screws her over in the end. And then the other character is like this old man. He's also very optimistic about going into this game. Even though he's very old, he shouldn't be participating in this kind of very crazy, tiring game, which might even kill him. But he's like, I got no other choice. I gotta participate in this game. In this scenario where there's how many options are there in this kind of a depression era zone? You gotta do something crazy like that. And then there's this other character that you see who wants to be a movie star, and that is her goal. Like she wants to see if there's some agents who come in to see her performance, to see her looks, and she tries to wear these beautiful dresses, and that's kind of all she cares about. And she's very shallow. But then you also see the other side to her where it's not just that. As these people, they're very tired, they're very sleep deprived, they go crazy, the real person inside of them comes out. And that was also very interesting to see in this movie. This the lady who wants to be a movie star, she also has this human side where she's like, I just want some kind of connection. I just want to, she tries to have sex with the male lead in the movie. So it's like, it's shows this very human side of the people, and in this kind of very very desperate scenario where they're so sleep deprived, they just want the money, and they're going crazy. And then there's this other character who kind of just stumbles into the game, the male lead of the movie. We don't really know much about him, and I think that's kind of the flaw in the movie as well, because we know so little about him, and we're like, why did he even come into this zone? Like we could assume that he also has no choices, um, but we don't really feel for him because we don't know anything about him. He's just like a very um, he definitely has a backstory, but we don't know anything. So he just seems like a guy who doesn't have much of a character, and he kind of get pushed over as well with by the contestants, the people with him. Like he gets pushed over by the female lead, and it's like you don't know much about him. So um, okay, so moving on, the way this was filmed was also very well done. Um, the film was filmed in anamorphic, which I really like. Um, this the way they used anamorphic lenses in this movie gave a lot of Benny's not Benny but like Safdie brothers. This movie felt like Safdie brothers would have made it, you know, and the camera techniques, the way it's very there's a lot of close up shots, a lot of um, very claustrophobic shots, and the film is very claustrophobic because it takes place mostly in one setting in that stage that stadium, and they also sleep there as well because there's some rooms that are provided for them, and they're not really allowed to get out of that indoor stadium. So it gives a very claustrophobic vibe throughout the whole film, and the way the cinematography captures it is also very interesting. There's also the way it's lit is very film noir. Like there's a there's a lot of top lighting um, in the stage sequences, so I think the camera can move in 360 without seeing the lighting, and since it's showcasing the whole stadium a lot of the times, I think the way they use the lighting is that they can only light the from the top, so that gives a very real feel to the movie as well. It doesn't feel very staged. It's like they just went there with the camera to just film. It gives a very lifelike feeling. Um, and the color production design and the I think the color processing was also very muted. It's not very saturated in the way that older films are. This film is very it's very muted in its colors, so it also gives that very drab, very depressing tone that this movie is going for. But I don't think the movie is totally depressing. I feel like the movie is still it shows a lot of human aspects in the movie, so it's not totally depressing as I thought it would be. It's definitely very shocking and thrilling, but there's enough human characters in the movie who are like hopeful, so it still gives that feeling of okay, the setting is very depressing. The setting is very um, it's very hopeless in a way, but there are still characters who are hopeful. So that was still very interesting to see in the movie. Um, the way the story progresses, also the we see a lot of characters who they get more and more tired, more and more sleep deprived as the movie goes on. So the makeup and the costuming was also very well done in that. We see the actors, the eyes is very like you see the sleep deprivation in the characters, and you see the makeup is also very pale as the movie goes on. Like at the start of the movie they have this very they look normal even though they're struggling. They seem to have normal like features, but as the movie goes on they get more tired. They have like some stuff in their eyes that shows that they're very sleep deprived, and they're very their skin gets more pale. They the way they act is also very very realistic, and that they you can see that they're very tired, that the characters are very tired. And I gotta give props to Jane Fonda, who is the female lead of the movie. I think she does such a wonderful job with the movie, the character. I think she really becomes that character throughout the whole movie. um, and I think she got nominated for Best Actress in that year when during the Oscars, um, and she didn't win. So I didn't watch the other movies, um, but I think this is a really really solid performance. Um, and you also got the other actors who did such a wonderful job. All the actors did such a great job in the movie, honestly. Even though the male lead, even though I had some problems with this character, the casting of him is very, very solid. I've never seen him in any movie before. His name is Michael Sarrazin. I've not seen him in any other movies before. I honestly I haven't really watched a lot of movies from the '60s. Um, I saw this movie. His acting was great for the character he was given. He acts with his eyes a lot because he has very big eyes. I think it works very well for this movie. And then there's other characters in this movie. The old man, who is the sailor, who is like I think they say he's a war veteran in this movie, and they say that he's got shrapnels in the body, etc. Um, and he plays this very interesting character where he's an old man, but he's still participating in this game. He's still somehow full of life and energy, more than the younger characters, surprisingly. So he had a look that was similar to George Bush. I don't know how many other people noticed it, but it was when I saw him, he was like, "Man, this looks like George Bush. What is going on?" But he did a good job in the movie, though. Like, looks similarities aside, he did a good job in the movie for the character he was given. And the other characters, there were a lot of characters. The pregnant lady, her husband, the woman who wants to be an actress. Like at the start, she was very annoying, and then as the movie went on, it's like her human side came out. That okay, you can understand why she's like that. She's just really desperate, and um, like you kind of get the scenario in this movie. These kinds of people, you kind of just feel sorry for her at the end. And then the MC, who is a very creepy, weird. I don't know if I can say weird, but he's just a very creepy guy. Um, and we see that he kind of. It's very heavily implied that he sleeps with some of the contestants, the female contestants, and he's also like he gives that very manipulative look, but he's also the guy who's running the show, and he's got a lot on his plate. You kind of understand that as well, and yeah, this he reminded me a lot of the frontman in Squid Game, so that there was that like when I saw that as the movie went on, I was also like, yeah, this reminds me of Squid Game. So yeah, if you've seen Squid Game, you could see the similarities in this movie a lot of times, and I'm assuming the creator of Squid Game has seen this movie because this movie was quite popular, like for this kind of setting, for this kind of scenario, and it's this movie is a critique of capitalism, like this kind of very manipulative, abuse of power type of film. It's a little underrated, but I'm sure people who are looking into it, like I'm pretty sure they've seen it, or at least they've heard of it. So yeah, I feel like people have seen this movie. The people who like try to make movies similar to it, and there's also Hunger Games, which is also a similar concept where they bring these normal people to participate in these very um, very like death like games, and make see who wins. The whoever comes out on top is the one who is like um, get the money, but then they're also manipulated still by the upper powers, you know. So that was very interesting. But of course, in this movie, you don't see anyone trying to fight the system. Um, yeah, it takes a very grounded approach. So it's like they just show these people just trying to survive. It shows a very grounded, realistic um, setting. There's no revolutionaries, even though the female lead, she is someone who is like talking back to the MC. She's like, this is bullshit. You guys are just trying to take advantage of us. You guys are just making a show out of us. But in the end, she's still participating in the game, and like in the ending, there's something else that happened, but you don't see any of them trying to fight the system. There's people who give up and go, but you don't see them fighting. And I'm assuming it's because it's still one of the early works in this kind of medium, in this type of story. So later on, authors and filmmakers, they try to take this story to another level and put their own spin to it, where they got people who are trying to fight back the system, trying to fight people like the MC and the people who organize these kinds of games. So yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. Um, yeah, and I would talk about the filmmaking once again. The editing is also very strong in this movie. I think this movie is like 2 hours long, but I didn't really feel the runtime much. It almost all the scenes are necessary for the movie. I didn't remember much scenes that were like unnecessary, at least for me. And some of the sequences, the way they were edited, like the derby sequence where the contestants they're put into a game where they're forced to run across, and whoever is the last three couples, they would be eliminated. So these go on in a very crazy way. Like obviously these couples are already exhausted from dancing for hours and hours on end, and then they're forced to like run across in a race, right? And you see the exhaustion, the desperation in these people, and there's people collapsing. They're so exhausted. They're like having some kind of heat stroke. They're they're dying, and then there's this pregnant woman. Her expression itself is so haunting, and it's so hard to watch. The way it was filmed was so intense. There's a lot of close-ups. You see a lot of fast cuts, in showing different contestants here and there, and you see their faces, their expressions. There's no blood or gore in throughout the movie like Squid Game. This movie is very grounded in that they just show the expression, the desperation and exhaustion, and that itself is so disturbing. Um, yeah, and the edits, the fast cuts, the sudden slow motion in certain parts, the way it's all cut together, um, it is so well done. It reminded me of Uncut Gems and Good Time by Safdie Brothers. Um, yeah, I thought a lot of the filmmaking throughout the movie was so well done that I was thinking, what are people making today as films? Like, these guys already did it in the 1960s and 1950s. So, what do we bring to the table? What are the new things that we could do? Yeah, that actually made me think about a lot of things, and that's the interesting thing whenever I watch older films, I'm always surprised by the filmmaking. Where some of the films I obviously see it's very outdated, but some of the films I feel like, yeah, these films are still very contemporary. The filmmaking, the way that it was shot, the way it was edited, it's it could still be like competing with the films of today, I feel. And this film, all throughout, the cinematography was, I couldn't complain. It was perfect for me. Now, I do gotta say, do I recommend this movie? Definitely. I do think people should watch the movie. I think it is kind of underrated. I don't know how many people have heard about this movie or seen this movie. I really think more people should. This is a movie that's going to be kind of hard to watch, but if you've seen Squid Game or and are fine with it, I think you should see this film as well. I personally believe this is better than Squid Game. So definitely see this movie. It's one of the best films that I've seen. And I definitely plan to revisit it later on. Yeah, and a fair warning, it does. I think it is kind of disturbing movie, but yeah, definitely see it. And this is it for my review, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.